Hello, everyone, and this is your hostess for the next little bit, Dr. Janet Franco, also known as Soulful Rosie. Welcome to this in-depth, up-close and personal interview with a very dear friend and colleague and one of the best in the business in hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and that's the one and only Dan Fredrickson. So Dan, welcome to the interview. Welcome to, this is going to be on the website. We're going to use it all over the internet now because hyperbaric has really taken the world by storm, really. I mean, everybody's starting to hear about it. So let's talk, before we get into the actual beast of a conversation, let's talk about how you got into it. You were a Navy diver, a veteran, and number one and most important is thank you so much for your service. Okay. So welcome to the interview, Dan. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Well, I got started, if we were going to get going here, I got started in 1977. I went to second class Navy dive school, and I was introduced to hyperbaric oxygen there to treat for decompression sickness and or make it so divers didn't have to decompress from deep dives in the water. It was much safer to do it in a nice chamber. And later on, I was an instructor at Navy Dive School in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, where we were the Pacific's dive emergency place for any kind of diving injuries. And during that time, we had 3 chambers at our school. We started an experimental program to treat people for diabetes, like neuropathy of your feet and cancer, and we had dementia, and we had a few other things that people just came in that had diving injuries and that were healed from being treated with hyperbaric oxygen. So the success of this was kind of a miracle in its day. And from then on, I've worked with hyperbarics in many, many other avenues. I did giant tunneling projects. I worked offshore for a couple of years doing saturation diving up to 1,000 feet in the water. And people lived in the chambers for up to 45 days. Wow. And from there, I started building clinics and worked with a group there. And I owned 4 clinics at one time. I'm kind of retired somewhat now. But for about 15 years there, we treated thousands of people for a variety of things, which we'll get into later here.
Yes. Well, yeah. Let's go back to the beginning of the actual conversation. Is what is hyperbaric? People don't know the difference between hyperbaric and the oxygen you put in your nose. I mean, it's such a different type of science. It all gets oxygen in the body, but it's a much deeper dive, if you will. Diver Dan.
Yes.
So listen, and then we're going to talk about the only course that's ever been, that I know of, that's ever been written in depth. I think it's 21 hours, right? A course on hyperbaric, all the its, ands, and buts about it, right?
Yes.
Wow. We'll get into that in a minute, but let's first talk about hyperbaric. What is hyperbaric oxygen therapy, Dan? If somebody was in an elevator and asked you, what is it?
Well, the story on this is you talked about the oxygen in your nose. Yes. We were sitting right here. We're at about 14.7 pounds of pressure on us at sea level from all the molecules from air pushing down on us. It's the standard pressure that keeps us from not floating up off the planet here. So, and what it is that you can breathe oxygen at that pressure and your body will absorb only that much. So it's kind of like a sponge sitting on the counter. It can be kind of moist and everything, but when you stick it in the water, which is deeper and has a depth to it, then it will soak in that water much, much faster. And that's what your body does. Your body is like a sponge. And when you put it under pressure, which is one part of it, and feed it 100% oxygen, then what you're doing is 2 factors. You're reducing any swelling, edema, or any injury type of product that's in your body, and it brings your body back to its normal size and shape, which opens up circulation, and it also adds the 100% oxygen, which flushes out anything in your body that is negative to oxygen, which is infections, any kind of swelling type of things, and it enhances your immune system to where you make more stem cells. Your blood cells are all saturated within 10 to 15 minutes, and your immune system is boosted up, to the point to where you're not going to need antibiotics. You're not going to need these other types of medicines that have a lot of negative side effects. This does nothing but cure and heal your body, which we don't always say that, but we've seen this happen over and over again, where it helps your body repair itself. And that's the biggest key to it right there.
Give it the tool, right?
It gives it the tools, and it adds the extra oxygen, because as we get older, we don't heal as fast. And there's a couple reasons for that. when you're younger, your body uses between 70 and 85% of the oxygen that it's normally breathe in your body. And it has that extra 15 to 20 or 30% to help heal it and keep yourself going. That's why young people could go a lot more. But as our circulation and our body ages, it doesn't chemically react with oxygen as well. And so you have to go slower. You can't do as much work as you used to do. And the oxygen is used in keeping your body trying to be a normal rather than that extra as you were younger. And as you get older, it's obviously people are walking around with oxygen in their noses just to be normal at that part. So what this does is it adds that extra oxygen in there, which enhances your healing and enhances your body's repair system to where you don't need any other types of medicine. And I've seen this over and over again, and it's pretty neat.
Wow. Wow. Well, going back, we've met, I think about 15 years ago now, we met at an event I did in Riverside, California. And I was blown away. It was right before I met you. I was introduced to Hyperbaric because, as you know, I've been working with veterans and helping with PTSD and traumatic brain injury for now 20 years, this month, actually. And when I was first introduced to it, I was absolutely taken back at, number one, what it does for the body and the brain. And number two, it's been around for so long. Why has it taken us so long to get it to the mass populace like it's starting to now? Because we're like trailblazers, and you're the real trailblazer. But Treat Now Coalition started with the former Secretary of the Army that I had the honor to work with. And it is just incredible what's going on now. So we're going to deep dive again here in these next 15, 20 minutes. But with that said, I'm going to tell my own story about what Hyperbaric did for me in a little bit. But right now, how long has it been around, Dan? I know it's been around a long time, but coming from an expert as yourself, explain where it came from. How did Hyperbaric start? I mean, who thought of it?
It originally started from the people that were called tunnelers. They built tunnels, and what that happened is they found that when they went underground, both in mines and in tunneling type of things, their body would be absorbing much more oxygen because they had to put higher pressure in there to keep water and or fresh air into these areas that were deep down. And these guys were collecting a whole lot of nitrogen in their body. So what was happening is, think of a soda. When you look at a Coke or in a clear bottle, there's no bubbles in the thing when the top is on. That's because it's under pressure in there. That CO2, carbon dioxide, is creating a pressure in there that keeps that gas in solution, which is the same thing nitrogen does in your body. When you're down deeper, it absorbs more nitrogen than it would be on the surface. And as you come up, if you come up slowly, it's like a bottle that you open up normally. The bubbles normally come out and it's no problem. But if you shake that bottle up or come up too quickly, as they do for diving and or tunneling, and when I'm trying to think of mining that they used to do, it creates bubbles in their body, which creates circulation issues and all kinds of problems in their brain and brain fog. I mean, that's why they used to call it the bends a long time ago, because the people would be in such pain that they would bend over to try to not have the pain.
Oh, that's where that came from? Oh, I didn't know the name. I was wondering what the word bends came from, because it doesn't even make sense. But I see. So that's why now they use it. Now, when was it introduced to the Navy because we can't have SEALs really without it, right? I mean, it would be hard for a SEAL to do what they do without Hyperbaric, correct?
They're not so much into it that much, but it was mostly deep sea divers that were the keys, because the SEALs stayed very shallow. I can go on that because I've used all their equipment and everything. And but what it is the deep divers that absorbed a lot of the gas that was there. And the Navy started using it about the 1930s. They made an oxygen table, but the first chamber that was built for medical treatments that was mainly was in New York around 1890, and they built a big metal round one, and they treated them until World War II, where they finally scrapped it. And for making stuff for the war system, they said, well, there's a ton of metal right there, we're taking it. So, but for about 50 something years, that was treating people for a variety of issues. Again, circulation issues, pain, and just standard asthma, people that had breathing issues. And they came in there. And the funny part about it was 3 levels, and they had a smoking room on the top. So it was talking about something that was kind of silly. But the Navy started it in about 1938. they started making dive tables so that when a guy went down underwater, he was able to come up safely. And they've been using almost the same tables for now, let's see what, almost 100 years now. It's nothing has changed much. It's just the equipment is getting better, and they're able to diagnose any issues better. So, and that's where they started in the Navy. And Jacques Cousteau, imagine, was one of the main guys in the French. He was a secret diver during World War II, and he did underwater espionage stuff. And he was one of the guys that figured out how these guys were getting the bends. And he was one of the big guys in there. Obviously, almost everybody knows who he was.
Yeah,
so,
what a great history lesson, huh?
Yeah.
Now, taking it to the next step. Okay, now we understand what hyperbaric is, but how does it restore the body? How does it benefit the body? Because we've seen over 50,000 successful restorations of our warriors, of our military now across the world. So how does it actually benefit or restore the body?
Well, depending on what we're talking about, let's just take a brain injury. Yeah. There's many different kinds. There's the physical kind that happen from getting hit. There's kinds that are like from strokes, and there's chemical brain injuries from people taking something that affects this caustic to their brain. What it does is it creates blockages in the brain. And even with a lot of the vaccine things now, they're talking about, because we treated so many autistic kids, and it creates something in their brain that blocks their normal function there. And what this does is it reduces the swelling in those areas, and it either breaks through those damaged areas or finds a way around it, like a detour around that, and the people come around. And I have not seen one single person in my whole 48 years of doing this not have some improvement of some sort when these brain injuries. Some of these people were pretty well gone. I mean, wow. Nothing connected to the world, and they came them and brought them around. And it's pretty amazing to watch them over a period of time go from basically a zombie laying on the ground there to a normal functioning person again. And it's so fantastic to see their families see someone that was given up hope on and thought there was no way they could be fixed, and have them come around again. And I could name numerous times when that has happened. And it's been a great experience to be witness to that with these people.
That's amazing. Well, my little story, as you know, we had a pit bull dog attack about 3 years ago with my little guy, my little Princeton. And it's so funny, people, because they call me Aaron Brockovich of the VA, because we used to go in there. I had the big hair, he had the big hair, and everybody, they knew us. We were coming, and we were trying to get hyperbaric lobbied, and the VA. And there's a lot of that out there right now, and we're doing some great work. But all that said, I got attacked by these dogs, and they drugged me through the college there up in Utah. And my meniscus tore, and it just weakened over the last couple of years. And then about 4 months ago, the whole thing went, and I was on crutches. I couldn't walk. And right before that, as you know, Dan, I had, they found some strange stuff in my blood, like poison or something. And I don't know how I got it. And so I was up in Utah working with a doctor up there that allowed me to use his chamber for 6 months. And I was in there twice a day. I didn't go every day of the week, but I went like 5 days a week. And I don't know if I'd be sitting here if it wasn't for what the hyperbaric did for me. So I have my own personal, up close and personal story of my passion and my love. I've been helping veterans for a long time, but when you have it yourself, when you have that own experience that happens to you, it's a whole different dynamic. It's like, it's a lifesaver. It's the breath of life, right? We can't live without oxygen. And if we can force it into the part of the body, like, the plasma we talked about before, we can force it deep down into the DNA and the cells and stuff. That's when the magic happens, right? When you can grow the stem cell, right? You talked about increasing the immune system. So talk about that for a minute, and how it actually works and how it starts to build stem cell on its own.
Well, what happens is usually the body is starving for oxygen. They're begging for it. That's why you breathe so often. And as you get older, it's especially your immune system goes down a little bit. And because your body is working so hard with the oxygen, it doesn't have a chance to pump up the immune system if something happens. And what this does is by saturating your body, like you just said, through all the red blood cells, the immune cells, your immunity gets pumped up and starts pushing out more stem cells. It's because it reminds me of when I do a rehab on a house or something. I get rid of all the little junk out of there first before I paint and before I do the major renovations on there. And that's what the first few treatments of this does. It gets rid by saturating your body, it gets rid of all the clutter, and your body can concentrate on repairing itself rather than having 100 different things to distract it with. Now it has all the tools it needs. It only has more than one hammer to hit whatever is there. And that's what's kind of neat about it is you see people the first couple of times they go, I just feel tired a little bit. I said, your body is healing right now, and it's having some needing rest because it's working super hard inside. And you find after a couple of days, all of a sudden their issues are gone, and it's just kind of neat seeing that happen. So
that's awesome. When you were talking, I was thinking about because I've been doing this so long now, 20 years, and I've talked to doctors and experts and scientists all over the world regarding hyperbaric, and it's just mind-boggling the depth of studies and science and things that are out there now. There's even, remember Eden Carlson, the little girl that had that drowning for hours. They thought for sure they lost her, and they were able to get her into a chamber, and it was on the Today Show. It was an amazing on the morning show. And now she's doing great. She's been restored. So my suggestion, if you're watching this and you have a pool in your backyard, you really need to get, at least we're going to talk about the difference between the soft chambers and the hard chambers in a second. But I believe that if everybody that has a pool would spend the money on this beautiful pool to get a little chamber, a portable chamber at the house, just in case, whether it's the animal or the child or whoever falls in the pool, they have much more chance of full recovery, right? If they can put them in the chamber right away. Correct, Dan?
Yes. Back on one of my first treatments at my clinic in Stanton was a 3-year-old, actually he was a little over 2, drowned in a pool. And we have a good, nice video on my website there of the little girl now. She was basically, out, had no response, no nothing, no eye movement. And after we did about 80 treatments on her, and she's pretty much like a regular little girl after a year now. And they had no hope. The hospital gave her no hope. They didn't want to do hyperbarics on her. They didn't want to do anything. And the people brought her over, and it was amazing. After the very first treatment on her, she responded. They said that she started to lift her head up for the first time since the accident. And it just went better and better and better after every treatment. It was so neat, again, to watch someone that was given up by regular medicine and watch her come around and be a normal, nice, happy little girl playing, and just she loved coming into the chamber because she thought it was fun. She was going in her spaceship, she would say. And
so awesome.
It was so fun to watch. And that's one of many that we had, but that was one in particular that was, special.
Yes. Well, it's an amazing science. I never get bored when I hear all these things. And then with the other modalities that people will go to my website, restoreusnow.net. I have other modalities on there that all are complementary to the hyperbaric. But I've always felt the hyperbaric is the backbone. It's the backbone of all wellness. Anything you take with it, it enhances. Anything you use, like exosomes and amniotic grafting they're doing now. I mean, that's a huge market right now for diabetic wounds and burns. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Okay.
How does hyperbaric benefit if somebody, we have a doctor we work with, and again, it's on the site, restoreusnow.net. Go in and look at the interview and the information on the exosomes. And how does hyperbaric actually help when somebody, a doctor or a professional, is using them as a dynamic duo to what they're already doing, and they add hyperbaric? Why does it work better? Why does it accelerate that healing?
Well, what usually happens is, for example, our first 5 treatments that we did on people with neuropathy of their feet, they had been scheduled to have them cut off already. They were all over 70 years old, and their legs are all purple and ugly looking like neuropathy does. Yeah. And it was kind of neat watching over a period of time the reduced swelling, the increase of the oxygen. You could see it going into the legs because the color of the legs changed as it went. And out of the 5 people, we saved 4 of the 5 legs completely. And one of the ladies was 80 years old then, and her name was Mary Magid. She was born in 1900, and she was a full-blooded Hawaiian. And this is in Hawaii, obviously, that we did this. And awesome. She had complete dementia when she started the program too, because she didn't talk. For some reason, she liked me. And she would not go into change.
Like Dan, how can they not?
I know. The other guys, big old giant deep sea diver guys, and I was like skinny me, And So she liked me and would not go in the chamber with anybody else. She just would throw a fit. And after 5 treatments, she started talking to me for the first time in 2 years since she'd spoken anything. And after we did 40 treatments on her, unfortunately, she had to have her foot. She lost her foot because it was too far gone by the time they brought her in. But her brain went completely back to normal again. And it was kind of cool that she was born in, again, at age 15, she married her husband. She told me about the wedding. She told me about working in the cane fields and pineapple fields from the early 1900s. Her whole memory came back. And at the end, her husband came up. His name was Peter. And I said, I'll never forget these people. And he came up and hugged me and said, you brought my Mary back both physically and mentally. And again, the other 4 people had complete relief of their diabetics. They changed their diet. They did all the smart things to prevent this from happening. And those were the first things. And then we started getting cancer people that were getting grafting and things from when they had their, cancer cut out of them. Yes. And normally there was about a 40 to 60% failure rate in these things because these guys didn't have great health. 100%, every one of them that had their grafting, completely, no infections, no rejections, everything worked really well because what it did is it enhanced the immune system to help not have rejection type of enzymes or whatever it was that would kick these things out. And it was the same thing. We had people that came in that had no hope and they were thinking 50-50 if this is going to work. I've already had cancer. It's been horrible. And it was so neat to see this thing just boom. Like one person, I remember his name was Jack. He had a big hole in his face. And then it just healed right up. And there was almost no scarring by the time he was done. And he was just amazed because he thought he was going to die anyway because it had such severe cancer. And he ended up doing about 120 treatments with us because he wanted to get his cancer completely resolved. And he ended up being cancer-free by the time we were done.
Wow.
So
we talked about exosomes and grafting, amniotic grafting. So it accelerates that, right? Because what does the hyperbaric do, like say with exosomes? Why does it, because exosomes are amazing. I mean, we've got the only exosomes on the market that are given a 351A certification with the FDA, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
So please look at that on the website. Why does hyperbaric go enhance those other things like the grafting and the exosomes? Why does it make the molecules smaller, or what does it do?
It makes your body acceptable to things that are healing it.
Okay.
I don't know how to explain it other than the fact that it feels like it pushes and teaches your body to open up to accept things that are good for it. It sounds kind of silly in some ways, but I talk to people when they're there and I said, you have to accept the fact that this is going to work for you. And if you don't, then it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
That type of thing. And that's what medicine is, a mental part of it. And it seems to kind of like be behind whatever enhancement there is. It just gives it a push. Awesome. And I mean, by this time, you figure if you use the oxygen therapy, all the little stuff, like I told you before, has been pushed out of the way and is now healed. And so this exosomes, which is a beautiful thing, can go in there and just work on what it needs to work. It's like, again, going into a house that had a hoarder in it. You get rid of all the hoarder stuff so that you can completely renovate the house. And that's what you're doing when you use the hyperbaric oxygen, so that when you put the great paint and you put the new fixtures, which exosome does for your body, it does that so that you can now have that all ready to go to be finished and have your body be 100%. And that's what my goal is. I want to be 100% all the time.
Right. Well, I want to talk about 2 more things before we end here. Number 1 is long-term COVID has been a real problem. Okay. A real problem. And so what have you seen in that arena? Because I know a lot of doctors are getting frustrated because their patients are just not healing. So what can hyperbaric do for long-term COVID patients?
Well, when I went down to my clinic down in Stanton, when they had wanted to hire a bunch of new technicians, and I went down there to repair the equipment and to train the new technicians. It was right in the middle of COVID, about 2021. And we did, everybody in there, all our technicians and everybody went in the chamber several times during the week. None of my technicians ever got COVID, first off. And anybody that used hyperbarics in there never got COVID. And we had people come in, we had 22 people come in with post-COVID symptoms. And what was cool is I kind of set up my own parameters on it considering how extreme they were and how healthy the person was. If they were younger and fairly healthy, we did 5 treatments at what was called 2.0, which was about 66 feet in the chamber to get a real good boost of the oxygen. And my theory on post-COVID is that when COVID goes through your body, it leaves markers in there, kind of like, basically, I think an easy way to say it was it's crapping inside your body, and it leaves that behind on a variety of different things, and your body doesn't recognize it. So your immune system does never go after it. And by running the oxygen in there, it seems to have attached to these type of things, and it marks them for your immune system to take it out. I talked to one of the doctors that it worked fantastic that came into my clinic, was complaining about it because his daughter was bad, and he came in with the same thing, and 5 treatments, and they were healed up. And we've discussed this, and this is kind of our theory on it, that's why COVID sticks around, because your body's immune system doesn't recognize it. And oxygen, by marking it, makes it so that it can be eliminated. And 22 out of 22, 100% gone.
Well, now how long? It sounds like herpes. It kind of hides. It kind of hides in the body where the T and B cells, immune system can't find it. That's amazing. Wow. And how long does they normally? Did you say how many sessions they had? Does it depend on the person? How many sessions?
Between 5 and 10 treatments.
Okay, 5 and 10.
And that was, and if they did, what we did is we did 5 treatments, 5 days in a row, 2 days off, 5 treatments in a row for the people that did 10. But most of the people after 5 treatments were fine.
Wow.
They said, wow, because it was really minor stuff. They had trouble sleeping, or their taste was having funny, or they had funny ringing in their ears. I mean, goofy stuff.
Yeah.
It came up with.
I remember I had that, but I'm doing great now, especially with all I've been through lately. And, the passing of my son, it's incredible how when we take these things that the body just loves, like hyperbaric, it responds and it takes care of you. If you take care of your body, it'll take care of you, right? Same with the mental health, same with emotional health, physical health, spiritual health. You have to honor it and embrace it for it to work. So, I've been in this industry 30 years and it's like, but that didn't work. I'm like, did you take it? Well, I took it for a week. Well, no, the body, there has to be, it has to open up so it realizes that you're helping it to the extent where it starts responding. It's not always immediate. So I tell people, give yourself 6 months to a year, especially if you're 55 or 60. It took you all those years to get that way. So you have to be smart about it. Okay, so let's talk about soft shell, hard shell. I know there's a big conversation about that. And before it was just all the hard shells, the Navy divers and all that. So let's talk about, and then the introduction to soft shells. I'm not even sure when they came in, but I'm very familiar with the difference, but I don't know when that transition happened. So please educate us, if you don't mind.
Well, the hard shells started in the 1930s. They started making them for divers, and then they started doing treatments a little bit after that. And it wasn't until about, I'm trying to think now, about middle of 1980s, they started bringing in the soft shells. The difference between the two is soft shells can only go a certain depth. And in the early ones, you couldn't use oxygen in them because they didn't have it set up to where you could. Now they have, let's make it, hard shells can be used for a variety of different deeper depths and can treat more severe things. And what we used to tell people is if you have severe injuries or severe types of illnesses, you go to the hard chambers for the first 20 to 40 treatments and then buy one if you have to, or find where there's soft shell because they're much cheaper to run. And then you use that for maintenance. And they're a lower pressure. They go to about 10 to 17 to 18 feet, which is, people say, oh, that's not very deep. That's 25 to 28% of the total pressure. So every breath you breathe under there is 25 to 30% more than you can breathe on the surface. So you're breathing 25 to 30% more oxygen in your lungs being pushed into you. So that's just at the shallow ones. And the deeper you go, it becomes more and more. So it depends on what you're going to be treating. Serious like carbon monoxide poisoning and certain things you need deeper depths. And like injuries, serious injuries, you need deeper depths just to reduce swelling. And then you go to the maintenance part. It's kind of like you go to the doctor for a surgery, but then you go to a therapist or something afterwards to do the actual healing part.
I see. Okay. But I've seen Dan in Utah. I saw a woman. She had a hyperbaric center there, but all she had was the soft shells, And she was seeing, I mean, this one woman she was blind and she couldn't see. She had some kind of aneurysm in her brain and it caused her blindness. And I mean, she literally was restored with the soft shell.
Yes.
And I saw a lot of miracles happen. It wasn't miracles. It's just giving the body what it requires to heal itself. Right. So I was just wondering, is there a time where now the Navy divers, do they have to have, I heard they have to go deeper with the bends and stuff, or is that something also that you can use with the soft shell?
They have better well, the Navy has a better soft shell one that's
okay.
It could go down to pretty deep, but it's really expensive and they paid way more for it than a regular soft shell. But the only difference between that and a soft shell one is that it takes a little bit longer because you're not going as deep.
Right.
But for brain injuries, it's fantastic because you don't want to go hard on a brain injury. You want to go soft and make it work slowly into the brain because it's tender in there. The rest of your body can handle the load, but your brain wants to react slowly to its healing. And I've seen that over many times that you just incrementally work them slowly but surely that way. And I vary the pressure sometimes a little bit deeper, a little bit less, just to kind of keep a variation in it. But most of the time, it heals at a lower pressure, and those are nice.
You know, it's I was told this by an expert one time, and I've always explained it to like clients and people that are interested. But it's like when you go in a dark room and fluorescent lights, and you flick them all on, and the eyes go whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, that's the same with the brain. The brain is a computer, so it's too much of a surge for the brain if you just turn on all the lights, and it's like whoa, and I know that it's caused some issues over the years. I've seen it. But the 1.5 pressure or the 2.0, if it's a gradual, then I've seen nothing but miracles with. We had a young medic. He was in his 20s, late 20s. He was on 52 meds a day. Couldn't find himself anymore. He kept cutting his neck and cutting his wrists. Didn't even know it. So we were able to come together as a coalition and get him treated. And Dan, in 30 days, that young man was off all his drugs except the painkiller because he had shrapnel on the spine. But he was off everything in 30 days, and the only thing he used was hyperbaric. That was all he used. So I've seen it like you. I've seen it. I've seen it happen. It's a beautiful thing. Now, before we close, I want to talk about your course. I mean, you've been working on this thing forever, and we are so happy that you're now introducing this. So please, what is the name of it, and what does it include, and how many hours? And please explain it a little bit, if you don't mind.
Well, it's Diver Dan's Hyperbaric Medicine. That's what I just make it easy so everyone. I tried all these other fancy names, but I like that Diver Dan's, Hyperbaric Medicine, because that's what it's all about. Yeah. It teaches you the basics of hyperbarics, the history of all the hyperbarics with all the different creatures and people that that were involved with it, and the uniquely, sometimes horrible ways that they learned how this worked on people, because they experimented on people with this in the old days. And you learned about what they did and how they did it. And then from there, it teaches you mindset, all the different ways that you can be healed by this, and the different avenues and many of the treatments that I have personally done. I don't put anything that I haven't done myself or I haven't witnessed personally. I'm not going to read studies and everything, but I just put the things down there that I do. I'm trying to think of what else here. Also, I added all the things that complement hyperbarics.
Oh.
And I keep adding more and more to this. Exosomes I haven't written about yet because I haven't gotten enough knowledge, and I want to experience it before I write it down. All the other things I do myself. I just turned 70 this last April, and I feel great. I'm not on any meds, and I do my hyperbarics once a week because we have a clinic here right by my house now, and the young lady there has taken my course, and she uses that, and I use red light therapy, and I have other stuff that I have at my house that complements it. That's the idea. This is just one of 12 things that I personally use to try to keep me healthy and happy and keep my mind and body working right.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, the course itself is so reasonably priced at $395. I think that's for all the years you have all this experience and you're so seasoned in the field. And I know you've been putting so much time into this, and it's got videos on it. I mean, you guys did an absolutely amazing job. And I know that we're going to be launching that probably this week. I'm so excited.
So, yeah.
We have a doctor here that wants to get it. And I think it's an important thing because hyperbaric is something that needs to be taught a little bit. I mean, you don't just open a center and throw people in there. I think it's important that people, people are doing it, but I think it needs to be, I don't want to say the word regulated. I think educated is the word I'm looking for.
Yes, it's
so that
better.
You can get most bang out of your buck, and you can understand how to, you had a clinic, and just your experience and your background, I think, is so incredibly important for people that want to serve others, because we're in a time in the world right now that the uncertainty, the fear, the mental health, it's on the drug addictions, on, and it's not just veterans anymore. It's just wide range of a populace of people that are in trouble right now. And you and I have talked about that many, many hours off air, and talked about what we need to do that's why the Trilogy of Wellness was created. So people don't have to try to, I remember when my kids were sick, I'd go into a health food store and I'm like, I take one of these and one of these, one of these. And I had no idea what I was doing when I was in my 20s, but I had very critical babies. And that's why I sit here today to pay it forward, because if it wasn't for those times that those people like yourself took the time to help me and to teach me, I would not be sitting here. So I want to pay it forward and bring people to the forefront like yourself. And the Trilogy of Wellness for Warriors goes a little bit deeper into the brain, into PTSD, into drug addiction. We have a little bit more of a protocol that's a little bit deeper than the mass populace trilogy. So with all that said, I guess we're going to close now, because this has been amazingly educational, optimistic, inspiring, and scientific interview. So is there anything that you want to say, last words that you want to share?
Real quick, I was just talking to a lady the other day, 2 days ago, and she made a comment that she'd been in the chamber one time and she didn't really feel anything. And I said, well, did you take a pill when doctor told you and it magically healed? She goes, no, And she goes, well, it's kind of expensive. It's like, I said, well, what's cheaper? Having you feel crappy all the time and complaining about stuff? I said, don't go cheap on your health. Go cheap on clothing. Go cheap on a car, but don't cheap on your health, because nothing else. You could have a great car. If you don't feel good, what good does that do you? So don't go cheap on your health. Get off of pharma and you'll be happy.
Well, thank you so much, Dan. It's always so great to talk to you. And we're just starting out. For those that know me, I lost my son in May, and I've got a new leash on life regarding helping others and the fuel to bring these things, because he suffered depression himself for many years. And, sometimes the only ones we can't talk to, it seems, is our own family. And I've helped veterans for 20 years, and I never lost a vet under my watch in 20 years, which I'm really, really honored to say. But sometimes we have to be the example and allow people their choices. And for those out there watching this, please take the time to watch this whole interview or share it. Please share it. And we are going to be starting a podcast in November, right around Veterans Day. So become a member, join up on the mailing list on the website, restoreusnow.net, and be a part of the healing, be a part of the Crusade for America to wake us up. The show is going to be all about all the advanced health sciences. It's going to be talking to people like Dan. It's going to be the goods and bads of crypto, and talking about grief, and talking about miracles. And, we have a show that we can all come together and be a community now, because if nothing has happened in the world worse, and that's the division of the planet right now. And it's our choice in how we show up, right, Dan? And we need to come together. We need to come together and just put our differences aside. My God, it's just crazy what's going on. And just find that one wonderful thing in that person. It doesn't have to be a massive compliment, but maybe a smile. Maybe it's somebody that just needs like that old saying, a help across the street, or to change a tire, just something simple, because we need to change this trajectory of where the world is right now. And with people like yourself, I know we can do this. So thank you again. And thank you for your time. And I appreciate it. We'll be doing some more interviews really soon. Okay. So God bless you, and have a beautiful day, Dan. Take care now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.